Hello, viewers. I'm VibhutiJha, your host, and this is Jaipur Dialogue USA. Welcome to our show. Please like, subscribe, and support our channel. Give your feedback. We value your feedback. And support us in any which way you can. Now, today we are going to talk about something which is, which continues to, float in my mind because it's never out of my mind, and that is Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita, in my opinion, offers solutions to all problems that we confront in our life every day, every moment, backward and forward, geopolitical or local. Everything is right out there, in my opinion. But to talk about that, I have great pleasure in welcoming our very dear friend, Mr. Jeffrey Armstrong. Jeffrey, welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA. Today you are on Jaipur Dialogue USA. We have done the show with Sanjay Dixit ji on Jaipur Dialogue, where you had a huge number of audience because that is a big channel. We are the baby channel, just started in the United States, and in a short while we have captured about 41,000 plus subscribers, and we are gaining momentum. But this particular thought is for everybody around the globe. So we want to talk to you about the Bhagavad Gita. You have done tremendous work. My book, that book is upstairs. So the people who are watching this show, look up Jeffrey's new book on Bhagavad Gita, which is truly outstanding, and truly outstanding, as he very rightly says, authentic translation. There are many translations that have existed, but Jeffrey is also a scholar in Sanskrit, Vedic astrology, and I'm reading his books from time to time. One of them is Karma, the cause and effect. I will touch upon a few things because everything that we do today determines our course of action tomorrow. Our words matter, our deeds matter. How do you design our future? The other one is very interesting, the astrology deck. I bought this book from him because I believe in the stars and the configurations of that. So and I wanted to read that. And there is very important book which I wanted you to know is called The Spiritual Teachings of the Avatar. Think about this. Spiritual teachings of the Avatar, ancient wisdom for a new world. And that's very important because we have started a work, and Jeffrey would like to invite you for that sometime. The relevance of ancient wisdom of India in today's life in every which way possible. So I wanted to talk to you about the relevance. The world is in a mess of its own kind. People like you and I we can be in a, what I call elevated equilibrium because of what we know, what we learn, what our mind is fine tuned to. But majority of the people continue to be in a morass because killing, rape, murder for political power, the egotistical, materialistic ego power, all these stuff forces people to act in a particular way to the total detriment of the average innocent life. Look what is happening in Bangladesh. The political turmoil between two parties has led to abduction of women, and these are all thanks to technology. We video it. A woman is being abducted. 5 or 6 people and a crowd is running with her and keeping her in the van to rape her. Where is the solution? That's why, do the scriptures fail us, or is it because we fail the scriptures? Floor is yours.
It's a big floor, but it's a pleasure to dance with you on this particular topic, which is of great relevance to the world today. One of the things, I'm a Jyotishi, a practicing Vedic astrologer, in which I had a guru. I just didn't read a couple of books. But at the beginning of my time as a yogi in 1969, I entered an ashram for 5 years with His Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And then after that, spent 5 years as a brahmachari. Then I went and studied Sanskrit for 3 years with a guru of that from Bharat. And subsequent to that, I studied Sanskrit at the University of Hawaii, which had a Benares Pandit who had memorized the 3,000 grammatical rules, the 2,500 grammatical rules of Sanskrit. He was a true pundit. So I had authentic gurus. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that particular combination, number one, in order to talk about history, we have to have a reliable language that doesn't change over time. Sanskrit is Samskritam, the most perfect language. Second, we have to have a worldview that is more than one lifetime for us, so that we can take a broad view of things rather than a one lifetime view. In Sanskrit, this is called Duratma, and this is called Mahatma. Mahatma. When Mahatma Gandhi used this word, it got politicized. He wasn't really a Mahatma. He was a politician. But a true Mahatma sees each living entity, all beings, as immortal Atmas who cannot die, who live forever and have lived forever. No beginning, no end. So just for a moment, think of this as the biggest problem in the world. All the Abrahamic religions, modern science, they all say we have one lifetime. And that's terrifying, and it doesn't explain cause and effect. There's no justice. Jyotish is justice. Justice is what comes around, what goes around, comes around. I call it UPS, Universal Parcel System. And the parcels coming to us are the ones we ordered from the catalog. How? By our actions. So this Mahatma worldview has not been taught along with yoga, along with explaining what India is. Nobody explains it this way because they don't think it'll be popular, because the whole world is trapped in one lifetime. So I'm proposing to you that this is the biggest problem. Till that goes away, can't change anything. Because if you only have one lifetime, it's a completely unfair, completely ridiculous, absurd proposition. To say you only have one life and you started out in this particular crazy family or crazy place or something, and you only have that, and that's all there is. Nothing is more insane than that. And the Bhagavad Gita is based on the fact, the premise of the Bhagavad Gita is you are an Atma, you were never born, and you can't die. It's the user's manual for escaping the trap of Kala, or time. So that by way of intro. If we don't change our big view, we'll stay small-minded. Over to you, Vibhuti. No? All right. I'll assume that means to keep going. So if you'll all just please think of this. Think of the context of something is how we decide how to interact with it. Our actions will become inappropriate if they're not in the right context. So let's say that one lifetime is a terrifying context that doesn't truly explain what's going on. And the one thing that gets left out then is a real understanding of cause and effect, which science proposes that it is mastering. But it only believes in one lifetime because they think that if they don't have a one lifetime belief, they're a religion. Well, the Veda is neither religion nor science. It existed before both of those pretenders proposed to be completely right in one tiny lifetime. And so it really requires a very big change. So just think for a moment that the first change that you need to make in your life to become a Mahatma, to see the big picture, is to stop believing that you die. To realize that you do not have one lifetime, you have them one at a time. You get a body, whether it was an animal body, a human body, or a deva body. Devas are running the universe. The unseen camera crew that's running the universe is called devas and devis. They're not gods, that's Christian. They're devas and devis. They're the beings running the show. Just like this show has got to be run by beings you can't see. So those are the devas and devis. The entire universe is called a jagat. And we...
I'm back, yeah.
Okay, you're back. There you are.
Yeah, there's something snapped. I don't know what happens. It took me a little time to come back.
Oh, assuming...
So just be careful. 11:02, we were just having a casual conversation. So if the recording has been fine, it's great. Let's carry on. I was only off the screen. So we were talking about the one life thing, right? So how does one fix that? Because now we are inundated with the thought which is dominated by one sect in 130 countries, by another sect in 57 countries, and we are the lonely ducks, so to say. How does one go about it?
Well, first, we have to have a guru, which means somebody who gives us information. Think of guru not the way you might think of it for a moment. Don't add meaning to the word. Think of it as a Sanskrit word. It actually means heavy. But heavy because they're carrying the knowledge of the big picture. They're called otherwise Mahatma, Maha, Atma. An Atma, like all of us, an immortal being, but one who sees the big picture. It's that big picture that we must start out with, or we'll always be small-minded. In this regard, modern science, small-minded, one lifetime. Christianity, one lifetime. Islam, one lifetime. Judaism, one lifetime. So this isn't a criticism of them as persons. It's the problem in their worldview. But a small worldview makes you small-minded. You don't have a big context. And this means I see you as an Atma, an immortal being who cannot die. This greeting is the secret of the whole show. It's only when you realize you and all living entities cannot die that you begin to see cause and effect, or karma, correctly. The Bhagavad Gita was the descent of the source of all this reality, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, 7,000 years ago, onto the ground in Bharata, the country we now call India, as an avatar, Ava, to descend, Tara, to heal and restore the problem. The problem is being small-minded, being a human animal instead of a human who sees where we come from, what we're doing, and why we're here. If why we're here is to interact and live, then respect for one another in this way should govern the whole show. That means nobody is their body. Their body is their car. In fact, in Sanskrit, it's called the karana, which is where the word car comes from. Karma. It's how you're driving your car. So this is the car. So now, if you understand this is my car, then you won't say this is me. This is the vehicle I'm driving right now. Hi, how are you? Honk, honk. Which changes the game. And this is the first thing the Bhagavad Gita talks about. Dehi nosmin yata dehe, komaram yovanam jara, tata dehantaras praptir, diras tatran namuyate. From childhood to youth and then to old age, all that time we're an immortal being simply going through phases. One who sees this becomes Mahatma, sees the big picture. And this is what is missing in the rest of the world. If you first see that, you will begin to undo this. Now, here's the next piece. So, Jyotish is the delivery schedule for the karma. UPS has a delivery schedule. Unless you have a connection to their delivery department, you don't know. So, the moment of our birth signals where we are in the delivery schedule of the cause and effect that we created in previous lives. And UPS is going to deliver parcels to us, timed by where the planets are in the constellations and the stars. So this is the perspective of Jyotish that explains the born again and again and again and again and again, many, many lifetimes. However long you want to stay here, what you do comes back to you, goes around, comes around. And this is where all conversations about what India is about should start and end. This is the context that Bharat has set for the world. And to this day, most people haven't got a clue that this is what's being talked about. Over to you.
You said people don't have the clue that this is being talked about. The question is, I feel, as a Sanatani, as a Hindu, as a practitioner of Bhagavad Gita's philosophy, we are losing the propaganda PR war. And the dharmic PR war, we are not even prepared to launch because of our ignorance. Is it karmic? Is it driven by what? Because at some point in time, the evil has a way to eliminate things.
Well, as you may remember, first of all, there are 10 avatars of Vishnu.
Right.
Vishnu is the maintainer of the realm of Prakriti. Vishnu and Lakshmi. Let's say it correctly. Yes. It's not just one masculine being. It's a couple. The couple running the show and maintaining it in balance are Vishnu and Lakshmi. The couple that created the whole universe are Brahma and Saraswati. This is so strange to people outside the Vedic culture. But here, we don't have any families who have children without parents. So parenting is the principle. So every once in a while, the source of everything comes down to earth, called Ava, to descend, Tara, to heal and restore people's memory. So they remember who they really are. Immortal beings from a realm called Brahman, from another place that is not a place, it's not material, and they have come here to have this experience. Right now, we have what I call I amnesia. We have forgotten who we are. Now, all attempts to understand the culture of India, the Vedic library, begin with what we're talking about right now. If you don't do that, it's because the person speaking with you doesn't think you're willing to hear this yet. But if they're honest, they say, okay, so here's where we have to start. You have the wrong world view. So I can't say it more simply. The whole planet has a wrong world view unless they see what I just described, which is actually just described in the Bhagavad Gita, in the first chapter, second chapter, so that we know where the conversation is taking us. It's about how to live here as an immortal being who's just visiting. And it's about how to leave here when you graduate from the university. It's a big college. So
you make it very simple. You make it very easy to understand, and I get it because I am also a student learning the whole process.
Yes.
So, but the important part here is the environment around us. So I'll give you a little bit of a background. Being in the corporate world, with American Express, I had the privilege of attending perhaps some of the finest leadership training programs that American Express used to organize. And you attain an emotional high in those events because they drum up. The American training methodologies are very, very powerful in terms of drumming up the emotional high in that moment. You seem to be king of the world. But the moment you return to your workplace, the rubber hits the road and we are back to being the same old rat because the world is so imperfect. Now, people like you who are, you are very spiritual, you have understood, you know the language because you said it very beautifully that unless you know the language in its authentic way, you can't learn the right thing. So, but when we live in a remarkably imperfect world of 80% or 90% of the world believes in one life, the problem, they believe in the problem. So, how does the remaining, the motley fools or motley little that we are, I go back to my phrase, how do we win this propaganda PR? What needs to be done? And I'm saying this from the real practical position because now I no longer intellectualize a problem. I'm saying, okay, knowing what we know, we are here. Now, what we're going to do? Nor'easter is coming. How do we deal with that? Tell us something about that.
Well, let's just change the greeting for the whole planet.
Okay.
And let's just say it's Namaste.
All right.
And it means I recognize you as an immortal being. So this is how we do it for openers. Now, if the person is sincerely curious, they say, what does that mean? And we tell them, you say, well, it means I'm showing you the respect that I have for you, not because of your money, not because of your body, not because of any of those extraneous things, but because you and I and every living entity are immortal atmas. And atma is where the word atomic came from. They're little particles of something, and it's not matter, but it's an immortal thing that cannot be broken. They're actually little persons entrapped inside of the goo, and it's actually called that. A guru removes the goo that you're stuck in. And the conversation with a guru begins like this: Namaste. Who are you? Give me your self-definition. So try this. Just say politely to everyone you meet, pardon me, but I've got a new way to open conversation. I want to know what you think, who you think you are, so I know how to speak with you respectfully. So it's a matter of respect. So namaste. Please tell me who you really are. Not the clothes you're wearing, nothing extraneous, not the body. Who are you? And this is called yoga. Because until you become an immortal being, you can't do anything about your future. And if you become a religious being with only one lifetime, then you're frightened to death. And going to hell is used to scare you. But what kind of tyrant would send you to hell after one dumb lifetime where you couldn't control the circumstances and no idea what you did to be evil? You're evil. You're born evil. Think of this. All three Abrahamic religions say you're born evil.
Right.
That's terrible. That's the most insulting, most depressing, most unexplained bit of idiocy that could be said. What a terrible way to look at everyone. What are we going to do about it? If I'm evil, then I'm evil. You're going to frighten me more. So you pull out the gun of hell and you say, we'll send you to a worse place if you don't do exactly what you're told. Oh, that's a great start. You're not very user friendly.
You, you're so right because the other day I heard an advertisement from Billy Graham, and I was so disappointed to hear that. Oh my God! He said, admit that you have committed sin, and I have sinned, oh Lord. So forgive me, Jesus. And I said, listen, don't defame Jesus.
Yeah.
Forget him where he is. But why are you saying that I'm a product of sin and I'm committing sin every time? Then in
Yeah.
that case, I might as well kill myself and end the sin.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Anyway,
end like that, isn't it?
Jesus seems like a nice guy. His father's an ornery son of a bitch who wants to meet the father. Ah, never mind. I'll talk to Jesus, his friendly son. Yeah, but what next? And
Right,
why are we evil? Please tell me what made us evil.
right.
What did we do? Where were we? We had to be somewhere. Nobody's describing it. There's no adequate explanation of our existence in any other worldview than the yoga or reconnecting that arose from the Vedic library of Sanskrit knowledge. And because it's in Sanskrit, it was passed forward reliably for tens of thousands of years. And because it's precise, Latin, Greek, and all languages that are carrying much knowledge on this planet arose from Sanskrit. These facts are unknown, just as simple historical facts. People are not taught these, they don't know this. But English without Latin, show you an example. What is this called in English? This thing right here.
Arm?
Yeah, and this part of it, what's that called?
I have no idea.
The forearm. It's called the forearm.
Forearm. Yeah, okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, you know. So, what is the Latin term for that part of the arm?
That I don't know.
Extensor digitorium profundus.
Okay.
In Latin, the language of modern scientists, to be more precise, it's an extending muscle. Extensor digitorium profundus. The digits are here. The extension is from here. It's the outreach part of our arm.
Right.
Now, this Latin language is a dumbed down version of Sanskrit. But in order to know this, you have to study language. And English is a dumbed down version of Latin. So the word atom, atome, is Latin. This is forearm or extensor digitorium. So an atomic particle named an atom is atome. You can't cut it. And what does Krishna say about the Atma in the Bhagavad Gita? You can't cut it. You can't wet it. You can't break it. You can't kill it. So it should be that the atomic particle at the center of everything cannot die. And that's what the Gita says. That we, the Atma, are visiting the temporary world where everything is made of parts. We are not. We're here visiting, and we're the source of the consciousness that we experience. And that's called Atma, which is what the Latin word atomic came from. Atome, uncuttable. You can't cut it. So the first thing, see spot run, first grade. Well, children, the first thing to know is you can't die. You are a particle of something from another place, and you cannot die. That's why you don't want to die. You cannot. But until you realize you cannot, you'll be afraid of everything. You'll live in fear. So very simply, until we accept that we're the Atma, we live in fear. And everything we do is a fear response.
Yes. Yes. I have myself said this many times with my little knowledge that the old, the traditional religions, I won't call them any other name, but traditional religions, their entire thesis draws from fear and ignorance.
Yes. And punishment.
And punishment, the consequence of punishment, heaven or hell, which nobody has seen, nobody has been to, nobody has submitted a call report from there.
No.
So we have no reference point for heaven or hell, but there is a passport issuer who sends you to heaven or hell, as the case may be.
Yeah.
So
Depending on their mood that day.
the question here is again back to the fundamental question that I keep struggling with. Yes, when COVID hit, I told so many Indians here, I did a show here, that this is the time for us to spread Namaste as a form of greetings instead of handshake. But what, to my utter disappointment, I was amongst the few who were doing this. And most of the American friends or non-Indian friends were appreciative of that fact because I used to explain what Namaste means in our context. But everybody went into elbowing. So if somebody came to elbow me, I would have said, "No, I don't want to hurt your elbow, so do this." I won't say. I said, "I might hit you harder, so you may go flying if I hit you hard on my elbow part." But the question remains. I go back to that, Jeffrey, asking you this question. You are remarkably knowledgeable. Now tell us, how does a common man take it forward? There is, like you said, starting from here and the journey there. But the question is, how will I start from here? 99% of the people who are born in this faith have embraced or they have ignored the very faith that made them who they are, but they have forgotten. How do we take that forward?
Great question,
Thank you.
Vibhuti. So first, let's say, I know you didn't mean to, but you insulted all the women because this is only for men. You
No.
said, how does a man go forward? Let me show you something.
Okay.
How does a man go forward? You could
How
have
do
said
we go forward? Okay, that's right.
you could have said a human, but I want to show you something very interesting. And so, what is the name of the person who created all of the humans? Manu.
Manu.
We are called Manusya. So it doesn't mean masculine. Manusya was not an insult to those in the female form. But calling it mankind is. Because you left out all the womenkind, all the girl kind. It's only the boy kind. And this is kind of what Western civilization is all about. It doesn't have a place for the feminine. It's only recently that women can own land. And guess what? The First Nations group who lived here, the so-called Indians, which is funny already.
Right.
The other yoga practitioners before the British came
That's right.
and stole their land.
That's right.
By the way, who told them all to go out and steal land around the world? Who did that? The Pope. He issued a papal bull. I call it the Pope. This has a lot of bull. He issued a papal bull saying, if you're Christian, go out and take everything in the name of Jesus. And that's called the era of colonization. So what I'm pointing to here is that our very language in English is part of the problem. And what we need is Sanskritam. We need a precise language. So Manusya doesn't mean men. It means humans. Human, the word human comes from what? And this is what people don't know. If I say, where does the word human come from? I haven't ever met someone who knows. It comes from the word Bhumi. The name of our planet is Bhumi. Bhumi, from which we get humus, the dirt, and human, the people. But man leaves all the ladies out. So English is a sloppy, often insulting, and imprecise language. This is the next thing to understand, along with the fact that we're immortal. And that is, you cannot answer the questions that are unanswered without Sanskrit. There are no words on our planet other than Sanskrit that will answer who we truly are. We are Atma, and that's why I mentioned the word atomic. If atome is Latin, it was borrowed from the word Atma. You can't cut it. You can't burn it. So Latin came from the original word, which meant that particle of being who came from Brahman, who came to this planet, whose name is Bhumi. And so in English, we got called homies, humans. But they forgot Bhumi. And so we're exploiting our mother. We took her name, but we don't know who she is. So I'm just giving you another example of this is called Duratma, of this small-mindedness. So-called democracy is the child of destroying the cultures of the First Nation people, stealing everything from them. And one more thing most people don't know is that the Constitution of the United States came from the Iroquois Confederation of First Nations on the east coast of the United States. We got democracy from the people we colonized. And we colonized like a good British would. So this messy world right now needs to be sorted out, and we need a new vocabulary to do so. Bottom line, the Bhagavad Gita is the user's manual of that necessary Sanskrit to hold a Mahatma worldview rather than a tiny Duratma worldview. I am proposing to you and the world that we need the Sanskrit vocabulary of language to make any change in the way we're operating, just as we needed Latin and then science using Latin to master the mechanics of matter. But what we haven't mastered is the mechanics of who we are. And that's where the Bhagavad Gita comes in. 701 verses, the user's manual for why I'm a human and what to do about it. And who's the soul?
That's a wonderful way to say that, if you want to save the world, use the user's manual, which is Bhagavad Gita, and which means study, which means study deeply, and then study in Sanskrit, the original text.
You might even get a mentor.
Yes.
Not a mentor, but a mentor.
Mentor.
From the word manas.
That's
the word man comes from manas. So to say mankind is to assume that the women don't have a mind.
That's right.
I
see this, for example, in railway stations and other places, public places. I see people committed to Christianity, distributing Bible to passengers, people coming and going. I don't think anybody reads that, but they are distributing that. And, this thought occurred to me the other day when I was driving by my station here. How come we are not doing this?
Hey, listen, I laughed for a whole week, the Donald Trump Bible. You just got to be kidding.
Yeah, that's right. There are ways to do that. And, I believe that Bhagavad Gita, I carry several forms of it. There is one in my bag here, in my traveling bag. Whenever I go, I read 2 sloks every day. I 2 sloks I read every night before I retire. I call it a day. And, and I always share with people that, it's so funny in my case. I can't speak about others. But my day's problems dissolve, and evaporate when I read those 2 shlokas. It goes away. The solutions are right there in it. Now, how do we universalize it? So you gave a suggestion, a very powerful suggestion, which is driving people to responsibility and action.
So let me give you a name for it.
Please.
If we give them a new vocabulary, that's the word vocabulary is from vach.
Watch.
Okay. And what is vak or vach or watch?
Yeah.
Saraswati. It is the Devi of articulate and intelligent speech. Is it not?
Yes.
Yes. And if we don't understand a word, what book do we read? If we don't understand a particular word in our language, what book do we go grab?
We go to linguistic book, a dictionary or something like that, or Bhagavad Gita
Oh,
in this case.
I heard you. A dictionary.
Dictionary, yeah.
Is Diksha English or Sanskrit?
You go to a guru.
To receive
Yeah, to
Diksha.
receive Diksha, yeah.
And therefore, dictionary, the whole damn thing is Sanskrit. Originally, the name of it is Sanskrit, and there's not an English speaker out there that knows that
Mm.
on the street. Your dictionary came from India. No, it's English. Uh-huh. Just a little patch of history, and you'll understand why it's a dictionary, giving you a vocabulary. And if you don't have the right vocabulary, your talk, from voc, your talk will be illiterate or inaccurate. It can't be on target. And that's why science chose Latin, because Latin is halfway between sloppy English and Sanskrit. At this moment in history is the moment, the opportunity for the culture of Bharata to actually explain itself. That's what I'm doing. That's what you're doing. That's what any of the persons altered, inspired, and improved by that experience are doing. It's not sectarian, it's dictionary. It teaches you words for things you experience but don't have words for. Religion should want to do that because it's religare, but the word religion comes from the word ligament. It means the rules that hold everything together. So religion, that is to say, rules are fine, but they are part of a bigger picture. So that's the Mahatma. And this approach that I'm sharing with you, intuitively, every thoughtful man or woman from Bharat knows this. They know that they'd like to say something to people, but they really can't say it in English. So they're kind of stuck. And that English was used to colonize them. So they're still unaware of this. Macaulay, the British representative sent to Bharat, went there. They told him, go to India and find out how we can control them. He came back and said, you have to stop them learning the Sanskrit language and teach them English. That's how colonization was done to Bharat. So reverse colonization is we start teaching Sanskrit correctly, word by word, so people have a word for themselves. Atma, the atomic particle of energy from Brahman that is visiting the realm of Prakriti.
That is now we live in an imperfect world. Now we have been colonized, and what triggered my anger, and I will confess to this anger part, was when I stumbled upon the 1941 census of India, in which I saw that just about 145,000 Brits were there in India, about 145,000, plus women and children. And what horrified me, what shamed me, what disappointed me was these 145,000 people ruled us millions, using our people to kill our people, using our resources to enrich themselves, destroyed a very unified culture, and made us feel crappy. I won't use the English American word shitty, but I
No,
will say crappy. Made us
inferior.
feel absolutely inferior. So that we all have in a mindset, every Indian wants his children to be like the Brit or the American.
You see,
losing their own.
the British
That's
problem
the
was,
biggest challenge which all Indian parents are encountering of all ages. The
yes,
first generation, second generation, everybody's encountering the same problem, and the current generation of youth is lost. They are called America born confused daisies.
you see, it was just the English not understanding. They said, "Who are you?" And the Brahmin said, "Sat Chit Ananda," and they said, "Oh shit." And they said, "No chit, but if you don't have chit, you have too much shit." But hey, it's a language thing. In other words, we're chitty, not shitty. We are personifying the Vedic Vidya. And that Vidya, Vide, is the Veda. And that Veda is the Sanskrit knowledge that was passed down so that we have the correct understanding of who and where we are. And when you want to control and manipulate people, you take that away, make them confused and enslave them. This is what we are in the midst of right now. Bitcoin, I called it Twitcoin, is the most recent example of colonization. Somebody says to you on your computer, give me $250 and I'll give you 2 million. Now, you should be asking, where did you get 2 million? Whose 2 million was it? What they're saying is, would you like to colonize the world? I can show you how to do it sitting at your computer. I'll make you a rich exploiter of the planet, just like myself. You give me a couple $100, you can join the team, and we'll start sucking the life out of everyone. That's what Bitcoin is, nothing more than that. It's colonization continuing with the use of computers. So until we wake up to this whole concept and understanding, until we see Mata Bhumi as a being, until we hold ourselves accountable like the First Nations did, who gave us our constitution, to the rules that govern maintaining life from life to life. Our responsibility is to plant trees and to recuperate Mata Bhumi after each generation. And these are the basic principles of the Dharma of Bharat and of all sincere First Nation cultures. So we need to revive this scientifically.
You talked about dharma. That's another word which virtually, either clean bowls an Hindu or mesmerizes because he doesn't know what dharma stands for, what it means actually. So, given a very ugly situation happening in Bangladesh where Hindus are being butchered, killed, raped, kidnapped, looted, whatever else, and to draw a historical parallel, the same thing happened to people in Ukraine, where millions have become refugees around the world, and for a war that the material ego of all sides are indulging in. What does an Indian Hindu do in this scenario? This is a very big challenge because people are all reacting. There is no response.
So I think what you asked is, what does a good Hindu do? Let's not say, let's say, what does an articulate and empowered member of the Vedic culture do when someone tries to dominate them in this inappropriate way? That is dharmic. What's the root of dharma? Dri. What's the root of karma? Kri. What is the Ri? Well, the English call it the right way to do things. Ri. We would agree and say it's the rhythm, from which we get the word rhythm. Are you in harmony with the rhythm? So, religion? Oh, wait, it's the rhythm again. How about we do dharma? It means we cooperate with the rules that are governing the cosmos. That's what this means. Are you a cooperator? Because you could be on the left-hand path or the right-hand path. You could just be taking, or you could just be destroying and taking. or you could be balancing. Now, remember, the Bhagavad Gita was in the context of the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is a family, a so-called royal family, divided between these two viewpoints, dharmic and asura. Sura is the sun, Surya. The saying is in English, I'll punch your lights out. The asura wants to punch your lights out, steal everything and leave you in the dark. The deva wants to cooperate with the ritam, with the rules, and Surya, and bring light and not darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Veda. And it's lost and hidden and buried in the dirt the English brought over.
Right.
And it's time to recover it. So I call this the Vedic Renaissance, where true Vidya, Veda, is brought out into the world. And you learn to speak it and be articulate. So the choice as a human is, would you like to become an asura and just steal everything and take what you want? Or would you like to be a deva and cooperate with the devas and devis who are running the balance principle in the universe, in the Jagat? So to me, coming from the outside, and I was a language major of the English and of psychology and of things like that. So what I saw was that I was hitting the wall when it came to other words. I saw the Latin was the superior language. Saw all this in university in my 20s, but finally saw the link was the Sanskrit. So the Sanskritam, the most perfect language, is the language of the devas and devis. That's why it's called Devanagari. It's the city where the devas live.
Right.
So this is what we need. That, and what does Krishna say in the Gita? Armed with knowledge, armed with Vedic Vidya, now stand. But the word is not fight. It's what all good Kshatriyas do. It's protect. We're not being told to fight in the Gita. We're being told to fight if necessary to protect. Well, there we go, Mr. Vibhuti. Thank you for spending this time with me.
No. It's a very important part, and it is not going to. The conversation is not going to end with one conversation, because this has to be had repeatedly. Because there are very, there are serious challenges at a ordinary level, mortal level, as we say.
Yes, indeed.
Is there any possibility that there is a thing called a group karma? Do communities have group karma? Like
yes,
people who a mob goes and kills, a mob does this or a mob does that. The communities, can they resist?
Yeah, in a very real sense, it's an important question. The question is, are we just a mob or are we a team? This, in a sense, was what the Mahabharata is about. It's the Mahabharata. It's how do you decide which side of that line drawn to be on? And then how do you, even as if you're a Kshatriya, protect Dharma if necessary? Because what you fight against is those whose actions would only benefit them and destroy life for everyone else. That's duryodhana. That's the word duress comes from it. That's duress, putting people under duress. And that is what's passing right now is democracy, the opportunity to take what you can. That's demonocracy.
It's a very interesting confluence of thoughts. May not be exactly the same words, because I have always been saying democracy is coming to its fruitful end, so to say, is become it almost looks like being run by demon rats.
Absolutely. The king of the rats. Hey, Louis, what are we going to take today, Louis?